Hi everyone, it's Sunday, April 12th, time for another HideNet Week in Review. I'm Vera Dordick. So it was another unusual week for the leather industry pretty much across the globe as each region tries to deal with its own specific challenges during this pandemic. So we'll start with Europe this week, where editor Andrea Guolo says that hides are still being bought and sold, but that setting a market price is only theoretical because sellers do what they need to do to move the hides. Prices are pretty much down across the board, of course, some origins more than others. In Britain, as in other locations, hides are still being produced because of the demand for meat, but sellers have had to turn to Asia for sales. So as such, the reference price for 36 plus ox is a little bit lower at 70 cents per kilo, both in sterling and in euros, but we know that sales have been made below these levels as well. The mole market in Europe has declined across the board, and while the average decline in reference prices is 10 cents, the 40-plus southern German bulls can be purchased for €1, but also for less than 50 cents. Just as he noted last week, this is largely situational. With regard to cows, prices are also down dramatically, except in Scandinavia where they are still tanning hides. In his analysis, Andrea takes a look at who is doing what to manage the flow of hides, along with what the activity levels are throughout the continent. He also takes a look at what's happening with low-grade material during this crisis, and pretty much fish food is all I'll say about that. Turning to the U.S., prices were still soft with some further declines. Packers continued to sell in volume, and rumors were still circulating about the undisclosed low prices they agreed to in order to move the hides. The price of regular weight heavy Texas steers was similar to last week, but the range tightened a little bit. So sales were reported from $12 to $14 for seasonal weight. 2 weeks ago, we reported on the very high weekly slaughter, which last week dipped by 50,000. Well, this week, it was a dramatic decline of 90,000 hides. So over the last 2 weeks, they've gone down by 20%, leaving us with a total this week of 536,000. While the dip in demand has a little something to do with demand, the dip in slaughter has a little bit to do with demand. The main cause is problems with the workforce in meat plants, where COVID-19 infections are increasing. In fact, the large JBS plant in Greeley is offline through Tuesday. Media in Colorado report that the company is going to use Easter weekend and a planned paid day off on Monday, in addition to a shutdown on Tuesday, to test all their employees and to completely deep clean the plant. Most expect slaughter to be even lower next week. With regard to exports, it was a week of huge numbers. Total raw and wet blue hides sold was 988,100, and the most striking thing is that 90% of those sales were to China. Combined shipments were pretty much the same as the previous week at 520,800. In our observations this week, we take a look at what's behind the export numbers, driving these sales, and what this might mean for the market in the coming weeks. From South America, editor Ronald Guiel reports from Brazil that the price of raw material took a dive this week, selling at 55 cents in reals. In dollars, that's down to 11 cents, also partly because of the exchange rate. TR1 prices were also down at 57 US cents per square foot. Overall, as we said last week, the situation in Brazil is pretty much like the rest of the world with regard to demand and leather prices. Among the other news stories from Brazil, the footwear exports from the country were down both in volume and value for the first quarter, and Minerva is cycling through their plants with a slowdown schedule to manage the current situation. From elsewhere in Latin America, some Argentine meat plants and tanneries are said to be laying people off despite this not being allowed. Also, Argentina, Colombia, and Paraguay have reports on their slaughter levels in the first few months of the year. So that's all we have as far as news for today. And until next week, happy Easter today for those who celebrate. Otherwise, we'll see you then next Sunday. Good night from HideNet.